and record. Here we go. All right, welcome everybody. My name is Sebastian. I'm going to be your end user trainer for today. We have a number of items we're going to be going over during today's training for you guys. So I appreciate your patience as we go through it. Again, this is mostly for people who are joining live. These videos will be distributed to you. Okay. The first thing we're going to learn about today is activating your RingCentral extension. So you guys may or may not have received an email just yet from RingCentral to activate, but you will eventually get them. Typically, they are sent out sometime after this training. Consider this proactive training for what to expect when it comes to those emails. Okay, those emails will come from support@ringcentral.com, as you can see here. And when you get the email, it'll show you a main company number, an extension number, and the option to set up your account. Just food for thought, the phone number, if it does look a little bit unusual, it is typically normal. It means that you guys may be porting in numbers, and that just may be a temporary. Again, if you see something unusual when it comes to the numbers, don't worry about it. Usually admins are well aware of it. Okay, all you need to worry about is clicking set up that account, and which will open up a browser window, and that browser window will ask you to start creating some security credentials for your account. Okay, so with RingCentral, you guys are going to be signing in to the platform, typically using your email address and your password. And to actually sign into the platform, we obviously need to create that password, and this is what that activation is going to allow us to do. So we're going to choose a password, and very much if you're used to iTunes or Gmail or things like that, creating accounts of that sort, this should be pretty easy for you as well. So you'll go ahead and create a password of your choosing. As you start typing, criteria will pop up in regards to the prerequisites, security prerequisites for that password. Just make sure you meet them and simply pop it in a second time. Once you've created that password, you can then proceed to create your PIN. The PIN is only going to be used in one situation and one situation only, and that is to check your voicemail on your physical phone. Okay, so we're going to be going over the physical phone today that you guys are operating with. And if you want to check your voicemail via that method, via that physical phone, it will ask you for your PIN. Afterwards, it'll read out your voicemails. Again, it's not the only option available to you. We'll be able to check your voicemails exclusively on the desktop application or mobile application without the need for a PIN at all. Okay. Lastly is your security question and answer. So in the event of an emergency where you forgot your password, you do not need to track down an administrator. You can simply reset it yourself. So whether you're in the service portal or in the app, there is an option where you say forgot password, and very much like iTunes allows you to reset your own password, you can do the same thing here. It presents you the question, and as long as you can answer that question, it will allow you to reset your password right then and there. Okay, so from this drop-down menu, you'll have one of many questions to choose from. One of them, for example, says, what was your high school mascot, right? And for me, that would be Bulldog. But one thing to note with the security answer, it is case sensitive. Okay, so it doesn't have as much criteria as the PIN or the password. It only needs to be 5 more characters, but if I answer it with a capital B for Bulldog, it will expect that capital B. Okay, I used to work in support, and I had many a customer call in saying that they wanted to reset their password, but they couldn't because they said the answer was incorrect, and they didn't know of any other way they would have typed it. As it turns out, they actually included an initial cap, and because they used the lowercase, it said is incorrect. That's how sensitive it is. So it's not to say you can't use an uppercase or lowercase. Just be mindful whether you use a lowercase or uppercase in those answers. Okay. Beyond that, we're going to be verifying your user information. So we're going to be verifying your first name, we're going to be verifying your last name, your work email address, so make sure everything is spelled correctly. Beyond that, it's going to ask you to go over your call handling. So your call handling will be separated into 2 pieces. Actual call handling, which will be forwarding calls to other phones. We're going to discuss that in depth in the service portal. You can actually skip that step in that activation. The other aspect to call handling is actually setting up your voicemail. So it will ask you if you'd like to customize your voicemail right then and there, or would you like to choose the default for your voicemail? English. Do you want to record your voicemail right here and now, or do you prefer RingCentral to give you just a basic, message that is played on your behalf to your customers that are led to your voicemail? And regardless of the option that you choose, I can show you how to go back in and change that if needed, and we'll certainly go over that once we get to the service portal. Okay, the service portal is where you go to make changes to your account post-activation, and that's going to be our next section. So where is the service portal? The service portal is going to be at service.ringcentral.com. This is the website you're going to go to post-activation to be able to make modifications to your extension. Okay. In fact, today we're going to actually do that live. I'm going to go to service.ringcentral.com so you guys can see what it looks like. And you can see here it's asking us to sign in via our credentials. Now you don't have to sign in by phone number, it says email as well. So you can simply replace this with your email, press next, and then simply pop in password. Okay. Once it lets you in, you will essentially open up your extension. So I'm going to sign in really quick to mine. Give me one moment while they do this. I'm signing in a different method. But here we'll be able to actually showcase what the service portal looks the first time. Okay, in fact, that's a good point. If you are signing in for the first time, it may ask you for a 4 to 6 digit security PIN. That is absolutely normal. It will send that security code to your work email address. You just copy and paste it back in the service portal. It should never ask you for that code again, as long as you don't change computers. Okay, there's a lot of options in here available to you from the service portal when it comes to your extension, so it just wants to make sure you are you and the computer you're logging in on is your computer. So we're going to focus on 2 pieces under the service portal. They're going to be under your settings tab. One is changing your voicemail, and the other is how to forward calls to other coworkers. Okay, let's get the easier out of the way first. Changing your voicemail is simple as clicking on messages and notifications. And from here, you can scroll down and you can see that when I activated my extension, I chose to customize my voicemail at the time of activation. Okay. Some of you may have chosen the default option. If you chose the default option, you'll see default here instead. Okay. Either way, you'll have the option down below that says edit to change your voicemail. And I'm going to show you both scenarios regardless of the option that you chose. Okay. Let's say first you recorded something, you simply want to change it a week later, a month later, half a year later. Simply press the edit key and a pop-up will come up asking you to listen to your voicemail, your existing voicemail, or to simply press the red button to re-record your custom greeting. I'm going to specifically press the red button, which will immediately take me to the prompt where I can grab that recording and put it into RingCentral again. And if you did choose the customize option, this will look very familiar to you. These are the options that RingCentral will give you to capture that from you. So option number 1 is simply to type in your phone number. This can be the direct number that is associated with your extension. Simply type it in, hit call now, and the platform will literally call you at that device. Okay, so if you have a Polycom on your desk, that will ring, you can pick it up. It will not be a human being. It will be an automated attendant, and it will guide you through the process of recording your voicemail, listening to that voicemail. If you botched it the first time, you can re-record it, re-listen to it as many times as you wish until you're happy with it, and then save it while on that call. And once you save the call, you'll actually see a message at the very bottom here that says recording saved successfully, and you can simply press done. And then at that point, you've essentially overwritten your voicemail. There are other options in here as well, such as computer microphone and importing. I would suggest against computer microphone unless you have an external microphone of some sort. I'm using a pair of earpods that came with my iPhone, and those are plugged into my Mac, and that allows me to use this as a microphone. And this will actually give me even better quality than on a phone call. So in that case, I would use the computer microphone. For everybody else, however, if you don't have any external microphone, just stick to the phone. You'll get better results that way. If you use the computer microphone without an external, it will defer to your internal microphone built into your computer, but most of those are very low quality, especially compared to a phone call. All right. Lastly, we have the import option. These are for people who want to bring in their recording as a file. So if you happen to have a local file on your computer of that recording as a WAV or MP3 file, you can import it right from here. Okay. So that covers how to change your voicemail if you've already recorded a voicemail. What if you chose the default option? Some people choose the default option simply because they don't have time, right? And they say they'll change their voicemail later on. You'll see the word default, but when you press the word edit, you'll actually see a different pop-up screen. Okay, let me show you what that will look like. You will actually see something along the lines of this. So this is RingCentral's way of simply saying, hey, you don't have a custom recorded voicemail, but we are saying this on your behalf. It's very generic. And if I want to overwrite this and turn this into a recorded message that I'm going to record, I simply pull down the default option, choose custom, and this should immediately bring me back to the page we were just looking at before, which is this page. Okay, and again, just pop in your phone number, hit call now, follow the steps. It will allow you to record that message, hit done, and at that point you've overwritten your default, and you should see the word custom here as well, okay, indicating that you've done it correctly. So regardless of the boat that you fall into, you now know how to change your voicemail regardless of your activation method, okay? Secondly, while we're in here, let's talk about how we're going to forward calls to coworkers, right? That's going to be done under call handling and forwarding. Call handling and forwarding, in a nutshell, controls how calls come into this extension, right? I know there's a lot of stuff going on the screen, but let me explain it in plain English. In the top left-hand corner of our screen, it's saying that during user hours, calls are going to flow into this list down below sequentially, meaning one after the other. And these are the devices that are going to be hit as part of this list and for how long. So I have my apps that I have on my computer, and I have a Polycom phone at my office as well. So what does this mean? Well, if somebody calls me, it's going to first attempt me at my apps for the first ring or 5 seconds. So whether you are using the desktop application or the mobile application on your iPhone or Android, it will always attempt you there first. Okay, so let's say a call comes in, it will attempt me on my computer. If I'm logged in, it will come up as a pop-up, and it'll try me there for about 5 seconds. Okay, if I don't answer that call and ignore it, it will continue to roll to my second device on this list, which is my Polycom. We will then proceed to ring that for an additional 20 seconds. Okay, then if I don't pick up there, where does it go? Well, it has nowhere else to go, so where does it go? It goes straight to voicemail. Okay, so that's the general layout, have calls flow in. So you can adjust the duration of how things are rung for, etc. Now, what if I want to forward a call to a colleague? There are typically 2 situations that I find that end users most commonly will forward calls. One, I ask a coworker, for example, to cover calls that I can't get to, right? Let's say I know I'm expecting a lot of calls for the day, and I simply want my coworker, Luke, to cover calls that I miss, right? First, I go to Luke, ask him, are you okay with this? He says, okay. And the way I would actually add the coworkers to this list is not using these fields on the right here. Okay, these are for external numbers only, not for coworkers direct numbers. Okay. Also, at the top, a lot of people misconstrue this as a way to do that as well. If you click this, it just simply creates another one of these custom external fields. Okay. To actually add a coworker, we're going to use the 3 dots in the top right. I'm going to click it and click Forward to Others Phones. From here, the system is actually going to pull up every single phone on your account. Okay, so whether it's a soft phone, whether it's a hard phone, meaning a software-based device or a physical device, I can do a search for Luke's device. So Luke has a Polycom phone, and that's the primary way I would like those calls to be distributed to him. And if I select that, I hit Done. Okay, remember, you're not selecting Luke's extension, you're selecting his phone. So a common question that comes up is, if it rings to Luke's extension and he doesn't pick up, does it go to his voicemail? No, it doesn't. Okay, it's just reaching out to his phone through your extension. So when a call routes through here, it still retains your extension and still goes to your voicemail, even if Luke doesn't pick up. But you can see here now I have a sequence that will first attempt me for the first 5 seconds of my apps, then my Polycom phone for the next 20 seconds. If I don't pick up that, it'll then roll to Luke's phone for an additional 20 seconds, and then finally go to voicemail. Again, it does not go to Luke's voicemail as part of this step, okay? You can, in fact, forward voicemails to him if you wish. So if I ask Luke, hey, are you okay with both covering my calls as well as covering any voicemails? You could go into messages and notifications, and for those of you that were paying attention, under messages and notifications, there's an option on the right that says message recipient. So I could potentially point this to Luke's extension if I wanted to do that as well, okay? The other scenario that you'll want to probably create is if you just want Luke to cover all your calls, right? So I don't want to intercept any calls. Let's say I'm not feeling well for the day, I need to go home, and I ask Luke, hey, do you mind if you cover my calls for the rest of the day? You still do the same step as I just showed, right? You still use the 3 dots, you add him to this list just as you see here. There's one additional step I need to take. I need to turn off my Polycom phone, obviously, since I'm not going to be able to take calls. And I'm also going to turn off my app, since I'm not going to be able to take calls there either. And when I press save, now all calls that come into my extension will go out to Luke's phone as part of my extension. Okay, and again, if he doesn't pick up, it still goes to my voicemail, And let's say I come in the next day, I'm feeling a little bit better, and I want to undo what I did. All I need to do is go back in here, turn on my phone, turn on my apps with these switches, and then simply turn off Luke's phone. And if you have a phone that is not native to this extension, turned off and then saved, what it'll do automatically is actually remove it. So you'll see when I go back in here, take a look, we're back to where we started, okay? So regardless of your situation, these are the bare basics of how to forward calls to colleagues, etc. Again, these fields are not designed for coworkers, but more if you want to forward it to an external number, right? So if I'm not feeling well, I can always go to my grandma's house. I can click add call forwarding phone and type in grandma and put in an external number. And if I do use an external number, I have to make sure to put in a full 10-digit phone number. And you'll see it just adds it to the list. Okay, again, if I don't want it, I simply just remove it, hit save, and we're back to where we started. Okay, so these are the basics of how to manage your voicemail and how to forward calls in your extension. So the service portal has a lot of other options in here, but again, most of those are set up automatically for you. At this point, we can focus on your desk phone. The phone that you guys are going to be operating with is the Polycom VVX411. It's a pretty popular phone from Polycom. It has a lot of buttons on the front, so we're just going to take a look at those buttons one at a time. Top right-hand corner of our Polycom phone, you'll see the little home button. It literally looks like a picture of a little house. This is equivalent to a menu button, right? You press it, menu screen comes up, and then you can use the scroll navigate wheel beneath it to navigate through the menus. You can use the center nub on the actual scroll wheel to make a selection on that menu. Beneath that, we have our headset icon. So if you guys are using any headsets plugged into the back of the Polycom, you can initiate the headset from here. Although if you have a headset plugged in, you can entirely pick up calls right from the headset itself. You don't have to use that button at all. The button beneath that is our speaker button. Naturally, this puts the customer on speaker. Just be mindful if you do use the speaker that once you do that, the customer will hear everybody around you, and everybody around you will hear your customer. So just be mindful of your environment. Bottom right-hand corner of our Polycom, we have the mute button for yourself, so you can mute yourself, and a volume rocker to control the volume of your call. So another thing to note, most headsets, if you're going to be using them at all, have their own independent mute and volume key. So you can do it entirely from the headset and not have to touch the phone as well. If you're just going to be using the phone itself, this is where you'll be able to make those controls happen. Okay. Bottom left of our Polycom phone is our little receiver with a pause button. That is the hold key. So that will put our customers on hold, pretty self-explanatory. Above that, we have our voicemail key. So this is what I talked about earlier when it came to your PIN, right? So you've activated your extension, you've created a PIN. Let's say you've went to lunch, come back at 1 p.m., and you have a blinking red light in the top right-hand corner of your Polycom. Typically, that means you have a voicemail waiting for you. If you press that envelope key, the system will ask you for your PIN, which you'll type in, and it'll start reading out your voicemails from there. Okay, and just follow the instructions from that section. There are other ways of checking your voicemail through the apps, and you guys will definitely see more of this as we go through. Okay. Above that is our transfer option. It looks like a little receiver pointing to another receiver, and we're going to go pretty in depth with the transfer types that you guys can do. These transfer types apply to both the physical phone and the apps. Okay. So the steps you're going to take to actually perform these transfers does differ between the physical phone and the apps. It's much easier on the apps, but the underlying behavior of the transfers is still the same. And this will make more sense as we go through. Okay. So this, for example, is the menu button. Obviously, you can make selections through with that scroll wheel as an example. There are line keys on either side of your display. These can be configured. Again, this is something your admin team is going to set up for you, so you don't have to worry about that. There are multiple ways of answering a call. So it's not just picking up the receiver or just pressing the button on the headset. There are other ways of doing it as well. This speaker button I talked about before is not just for taking an active call. Let's say you picked up from the receiver and then put it on speaker. It will actually allow you to pick up a call using this button as well. So this call coming in from Brad, you can see, I can press this button, and not only will it pick it up, it'll put it on speaker simultaneously. Okay, so if you ever want to do that very quickly. The keys here and here, this is your incoming line key. This key is the key that all calls come in on. So when a call comes in, you'll see that it always blinks green. You can press that button to answer a call, or you can also press the soft key here. Soft keys are not called soft keys because they're squishy. They're actually soft keys because they're software based. They dynamically change based on what you're doing, okay? These are static keys. That's why they have icons on them. These are blank because depending on what I'm doing, you'll see that this key will do a specific action at any given time. So while Brad's calling in, for example, you can see I can also use the soft key to answer this call. All of these basically have the same result. Again, if you are using a headset, technically that's a fifth option. So if you have a headset, you can press the button on the headset. It will allow you to pick up the call that way as well. If any of you are familiar with dialing out with a specific number like 9 or 1, that is no longer required. Okay, what is required going forward is if you're going to dial out, be it from your Polycom or your apps, that you dial the full 10-digit phone number, including the area code. Okay, so you don't need to dial those numbers anymore, but just make sure to include the full 10-digit phone number. If you press a specific direction on that scroll wheel while the phone is idle, meaning not being used, you'll actually pull up even additional menus. Like, for example, a lot of people use the down arrow to see their missed calls, right? Let's say you were out for lunch, you came back, you press down, you'll see this shows missed calls. A menu will pop up showing you all of your missed calls during that hour. And then once you're in the menu, you can then use the scroll wheel in a more conventional manner, using up and down to navigate through the person you want to call back. Here you can see Randall called a bunch of times. And then I can use the dial key under the soft key to dial the person I have back selected. Okay, so this is a perfect example of how the soft keys dynamically change. Okay, right will obviously pull up your recently dialed calls, outbound, and left will obviously be recently received calls. Active screen options. So again, these are talking about the same theme of the soft keys at the bottom of the display. They're actually very important. These options will change to better meet the needs of the call, right? So this is actually what it looks like when you're on an active call, right? So we've picked up that phone call from Brad or Susie or whoever. This is what your screen is going to look like. You'll see the first key allows us to put someone on hold. The second key allows me to end the call. Third key allows me to transfer. And if I press more, it gives me even more options than the first page. Now, some people say, but Sebastian, didn't you say this key puts it on hold? Yes, it does, but so can this. You can end the call here. You can hang up the receiver or press the button on the headset to end the call. You can transfer the call here. You could transfer the call here. There's no right or wrong way of performing these actions. Okay, it's just whatever is most convenient for you at any time. Again, if you press the more key, there's even more options in here, such as conference park. You're not going to be really using park, but we'll definitely go into conferencing once we get later into the apps. So there's multiple ways of doing conferencing on your platform. The three-way call is something we'll get to once we get past transfers, okay? It's imperative for you to understand the different types of transfers and how they behave before we can explain conferencing. Speaking of, let's get to those three types of transferring that you're going to perform. Three transfer types may be familiar to some of you, but for those that are not acquainted, we have warm, blind, and transfer to voicemail. I'm going to give you the gist of how each of these behave, and then we're going to go in detail as to how you're actually going to perform them on the Polycom phone. Okay? A warm transfer is also known as a consultative transfer, in that I'm going to consult with the person I'm going to transfer to as part of the transfer process itself. English, I'm on the phone with Susie, right? Susie would like to be transferred to Luke. If I perform a consultative transfer, what it'll actually do is it'll actually put Susie on hold. So I'll have to ask Susie first, hey, Susie, do you mind if I see if Luke's available? Because she asked to speak with him. She says, sure. If I perform that warm transfer, she gets put on hold. And in the meantime, Luke gets rung exclusively by me. So ring, ring, ring. He picks up. Now it's just me and Luke on the call while Susie's still hanging on hold. I say, hey, Luke, I have Susie on the other line. Are you available to take this call? If he says yes, I can then send the call on its way. Alternatively, if Luke is not available, I can cancel that warm transfer, which drops Luke from the call and takes me right back to Susie, who's been holding out on hold. And I can politely explain to her, hey, Luke, unfortunately, is not available at this time. Okay? This is the default transfer type that your phones are going to perform, and it's the most popular. Okay? And again, we're going to go key by key on how we're going to perform these on your phone in just a few moments. The blind transfer is exactly what people think of as your typical transfer, right? Simple A to B transfer, no consultating of any kind, no talking to Luke. It just sends the call on its way, whether Luke is ready for it or not. In fact, if Luke is on a call and I blind transfer to him, he'll see the call. He'll see it on his apps, he'll see it on his phones, and he can choose to ignore it, and it will eventually roll to voicemail. Alternatively, he could tell the first caller, hey, I have another caller coming in. Do you mind if you hang out for just a second? And he says yes. You can put that first person on hold, scoop up the second call, or simply tell the first person, hey, do you mind if I call you back? I have an urgent call coming in. And his call, and scoop up the second before it rolls through. Okay, again, blind transfers will show you the same caller ID, same phone number that you see. I would then send that to Luke. He would see that same information. Okay? Whereas a warm transfer, what does Luke see? He actually sees my name on his phone, and obviously he knows I'm trying to communicate with him for a reason. Then lastly, transfer to voicemail, self-explanatory. If Susie specifically asks to be sent to voicemail, I can do that as well, and we're going to show how to do that key press by key press. So, how do we perform a warm transfer? As you can imagine, starting with that transfer key. Okay, so you can press it from here or the soft key on underneath the display. Once you press that key, the phone will ask you to dial the extension of the phone number you wish to transfer to, right? So if you know the 4-digit extension of the person you want to transfer to, let's say Luke is 1234, just type 1234, okay? If it's an external number, right, and you can do warm transfers to external numbers like cell phones, just make sure you dial the full 10-digit phone number just like you can see here, okay? And then when I press send, what does it do? What's the underlying behavior of a warm transfer? Well, it puts Susie on hold, rings Luke, ring, ring, ring. He picks up. I say, hey, Luke, I have Susie on the other line. Are you available to take her call? If he says yes, how do I complete the transfer? I simply use the same key that I used to start the transfer, which is the transfer key. Okay, so a successful warm transfer looks like this. Transfer, in this case, 1234, send, consult with Luke. Hey, Luke, are you available? He says yes. Transfer. Okay, that's a successfully completed transfer. If Luke said no, Luke said, unfortunately, I'm not available at this time, on your screen, one of the soft keys will say cancel. And if you press the cancel key, it'll actually drop the call with Luke, and again, takes you right back to Susie, and you politely explain to Susie that Luke is not available, okay, and give her her options. That is a warm transfer. And again, the apps still have the same underlying behavior, and you're definitely going to see that, but it's a much easier interface to work with. What if you need to do a blind transfer? Well, the blind transfer has one minor difference. You still start with the transfer key, but you'll notice at the bottom of the display, there's going to be a blind key, right, on your soft key. And if you press it, it will actually toggle on the blind mode, okay? Because by default, it's warm. If we want to use blind for any reason, we press blind. And your screen will actually change as well. It'll say blind transfer to when you press that key instead of transfer to. Transfer to is a warm transfer. Blind transfer to obviously is just a regular blind transfer. And then once you're in that blind mode, the rest is exactly the same. You type the extension of the phone number you wish to transfer to, in this case 1234 for Luke, or if it's an external number, just dial the full 10-digit phone number, okay? And then I just press send. But unlike a warm transfer, a blind transfer does not have me consulting with him, so it just sends it on its way, okay? Exactly. Then transfer to voicemail, right? So let's say Susie asks to go straight to his voicemail. How do we perform that? Well, it's exactly like we just described the blind transfer to the T, except the last step, okay? So we're still gonna start by pressing the transfer key. We're still gonna press the blind key to switch to blind transfer. Again, it'll say blind transfer to. And then we simply dial his extension, but we're gonna specifically put a *0 in front of his extension when we're dialing it, right? So it'll be transfer, blind, *0, 1234. The *0 tells our system, hey, I'm not looking to do a regular blind transfer. I'm actually looking to hit his voicemail, and that's what triggers that to happen, right? The *0. And as soon as you press send, the first thing Susie's gonna hear is his voicemail, okay? And 2 minutes later, Luke will have a nice voicemail waiting for him. Again, you can use this as a follow-up from a warm transfer, where you start with consulting with Luke, seeing if he's available. He's not available, you double back to Susie, and then say, hey, Susie, unfortunately Luke's not available. Would you like to call back later? Or perhaps I can transfer you to his voicemail, right? And if she says yes, you basically follow these steps of performing the transfer to voicemail for him, okay? Ending the call is as simple as hanging up the receiver, pressing the button on the headset, pressing the end call from the front of the phone. Any of these will all perform the same action. Okay, pretty simple. Checking voicemail, again, just involves pressing that envelope key on the left-hand side. It will ask you for your 6-digit PIN. Just listen and follow the instructions on the phone to get started. Okay. All right, let's get rolling into the RingCentral phone app. So the RingCentral phone app can be installed. Let me go ahead and stop my video really quick so I can make some room. The RingCentral phone app can be installed on your iPhone, Android, or computer device, right? I'm assuming IT is going to assist you with getting this installed. And you can essentially manage your calls from wherever you wish. So you can make and receive calls from either your iPhone or Android or your computer at any time. And if you are, and the most typical scenario I see is when users are at their computers, they're signed into the desktop application and calls will arrive there. If they are on the run, they log out of their desktop application, log into their mobile app, and calls will arrive there instead, right? But there's no reason why you can't be signed into both. And if you are, when the call comes in, it'll hit both devices at the same time. You can pick and choose where you'd like to scoop up those calls. Again, for signing in, you guys can use the email option here in the bottom left-hand corner. Email password, just like the service portal we discussed, and it'll let you write in. I'm going to be signing in using my phone number. That's normally how I sign in, so I'm just going to sign in that way really quick. Now, there are some features that are available exclusively on the desktop application that are not available on the mobile application. Okay, I'm going to highlight some today available to you, such as the HUD, but we also have conferencing to go over. There'll be a majority of the features that you need on the mobile app will be there, but there will be some exclusive to the desktop application. Okay. So what's the first thing we should take a look at? Well, let's take a look at what an active call looks like, right, while you're on an active call, compared to the Polycom, which we've been showing so far. I'm actually going to call a specific person. This is a fake person. We're just going to imagine that that's Susie, and I'm going to give her a call. All right. Again, when you get calls coming into your desktop application, they just look like a pop-up, and it'll give you several options in regards to that call. And then when you pick it up, this is essentially what you'll be seeing. Okay, so we have several options available to us. Okay, so we have mute. So mute is something that is in the top left-hand corner. This will allow you to mute the call at any time. It's just like it works on the desktop application. We have the keypad, which will allow us to pull up the keypad at any time. Okay. Our audio option in the top right-hand corner, it will allow us to control the volume of our customer. So just like that volume marker on our Polycom phone, this is exactly where that would work. We have hold, right? So this will actually put the customer on hold. You guys won't be really using the on-demand call recording, so we can skip over that. Conferencing is something we will want to go over, okay? I actually held off on teaching you about conferencing on the Polycom because of the underlying behavior of how a conference works, right? So if you're on a Polycom and you need to perform a conference call, let's say bring in Luke into a three-way conference call rather than transfer a call to him, you actually press that more key that I showed you earlier, and you press conference, and guess what the phone's going to ask you for? It's going to ask you for the extension that you'd like to conference in, right? And you type the extension, let's say 1234, and at that point, what does it do? Well, it'll actually do it in a consultative manner, meaning it puts Susie on hold, it rings Luke exclusively, he picks up, and then I can say, hey, Luke, I have Susie on the other line. Are you available to be part of three-way conference call? If he says yes, I simply press the same key that I pressed to start the conference. So I press more, I press conference, and now I'm in a three-way conference call. Okay, it's a consultative transfer type method of bringing them together. There are more options for conferencing. I'll go over that shortly. But again, I just wanted to show you the underlying behavior of how that works on the Polycom. How does that work here on our desktop application? Well, if I just press add, again, we're going to imagine we're on the phone with Susie and I want to bring Luke into this call. I press add, and notice at the top it says enter name or number. So I don't even need to know Luke's phone number or his extension for that matter. I can simply type in his name. There we go. Click him. And now I'm good to go to actually start calling him. Now, what this is going to do is essentially do the same underlying behavior, right? So it puts Susie on hold. and rings Luke exclusively. As soon as he picks up his phone, 2 additional buttons will appear at the bottom of the app. One will say merge calls, and one will say cancel, right? So if he says, yes, I am available to be part of this conference call, you just press the merge key in the bottom left here. If he says, no, unfortunately, I'm not available, you press the cancel key. What does that do? What's the underlying behavior of cancel when you do a consultation? It drops Luke from the call, takes you right back to Susie, right? So I can politely explain to Susie, unfortunately, Luke is not available at this time for a conference call. Can we reschedule something? Okay. We have our transfer options in the bottom left-hand corner. We talked about 3 transfer types: warm, blind, send to voicemail. Take a look. They're lined up like a row of ducks. Okay, so you can do the same exact thing. We can type in Luke's name, simply select his extension, and I can warm transfer, also known as consultative transfer, right from here. I can blind transfer right from here, or send to voicemail. Again, a warm transfer consults with him, so if I press this, it will put Susie on hold. So definitely let your customers know, hey, do you mind if I see if Luke's available? Sure, cool. Now go in and press it, and it'll ring Luke exclusively. He picks up, and again, 2 buttons will appear. One will say transfer, and one will say cancel. And why are they there? Well, at that point, I'm asking Luke, hey, Luke, are you available to take this call from Susie? And if he says yes, I press transfer. If he says no, I say cancel. And what does that do? It drops Luke from the call, takes me right back to my customer. Okay? And I can politely explain to Susie, hey, unfortunately, he's not available. Blind, as the name says, blindly sends the call over to Luke, whether he's ready for it or not. And then we have send to voicemail. So this entire process is almost identical on the mobile device, and it should be pretty straightforward. Okay. Park is not something you guys are necessarily going to use on the platform, but we can go over call flip, call switch really quick. Actually, let me stop the recording for just a second. Record. So the call flip feature in the bottom right-hand corner of your phone allows you to essentially move calls effortlessly between your devices. So let's say I started a call on my computer, right? And I need to go to lunch for whatever reason. While I'm on the call on my desktop application, if I open up my mobile app, right, so that be it on your iPhone or Android, while you're on the call with Susie, if you log in, you're going to see a bar at the top of the app. That bar is going to say something like active call, press the call switch. What's that bar about? Well, it's actually telling you right then and there that I see a call on your computer. I see that you're on a call on your computer, and if you press this button on your iPhone, I'll flip the call from where it's at to the device that you're holding in your hand. All right, you press the button, it asks you to confirm, and it flips the call, ends the call on my computer, and then resumes it on my iPhone. Never drops a beat, never drops the call with Susie. It's the same call, same Susie. Okay, now I could take this call with me out to lunch. I can go get a burrito, go hang gliding, come back from lunch an hour later, however I like to. But it also works in multiple directions. So you can also flip the call back to your computer. If you simply open up your desktop application, guess what it's going to say at the very top? Okay, it's also going to say press to call switch. So it's saying, hey, I notice you're on your iPhone, click this button, flips it right back to the computer, and you can take it from there. Okay, so it works in multiple directions. If you start a call on your Polycom, your iPhone will still see that call. It does not matter. Okay, so you can start it from your Polycom or your computer, your iPhone will see it. The only situation that becomes a little bit more difficult is moving back to your Polycom, right? Because the Polycom doesn't have our software. It doesn't have a special button that says call flip, call switch. This is a RingCentral exclusive feature. So that's why we dedicated a specific button for it. So if I need to flip from my computer or my iPhone to my Polycom, that's why this exists. If I click on it, you'll see that it says desk phone and that I have one associated with my extension, and that's when I flip that. So that's the only time you'll be using that specific flip functionality. Okay, so that is the basics of how you guys are going to be operating phone calls on the desktop application. Again, some of these features may be missing. A majority of what you'll need is here. I think the only thing that's not included on the mobile app is the three-way audio calling for conferencing, but there is an option for the audio bridge. Okay. In fact, let's go over that really quickly. What's our second conference option? Because some people may ask, what if I want more than 3 people on a conference call? Well, at the very bottom of the app, you'll see a Start Conference button. If I click on it, it'll show you your personal conference bridge. Every single one of you on this account, every single one of you with an extension, has your own personal 1,000 seat conference bridge. This is your dial-in number. This is your host access code, your participation access code for your participants. And if I press invite with email, it'll grab all this information and throw it into an email template. Nice and neat, okay? This button that says include additional dial-in numbers has to do with international. It's normally turned off, but I've turned it on. And what will happen when I press the invite with email, it will actually ask me where else would I like to have my conference call, right? So you have customers all over the world. We are now an international global company, so we own numbers all over the world. So let's say we want to invite someone from the UK, the United Kingdom, Turkey, Sweden, Slovenia, and Peru, okay? So these customers don't need to pay long distance to call the US conference bridge number. They can actually call a number that's local to their country, okay? These are not toll-free numbers. They're local numbers, so they're still going to pay, but they're going to pay what equates to a local call compared to a long-distance call and save them a lot of money, okay? So you can press the check mark, and again, it'll grab all these phone numbers. It'll grab the participation access code, throw it into a nice email, nice and tidy, give you all the information you need for them, and you can send it on its way, okay? Okay. Next, let's go over your call history. So we're going to be going over things like how to see what calls you've made in the past. So that'll be at the very top of the app. It'll say call log. And under the call log, it'll show you not just your missed calls, but it'll show you every single call you've ever made. Okay, so if I want to very quickly go to which calls I've missed specifically, you click on the missed tab. But if I want to see every call I've made, whether it's inbound or outbound, I'll see it right from here. So I'll see my missed calls, but I'll also see any calls I've made out, and also see any calls that I've made in. Okay, so you can see those coming in just as we speak here. So they'll be in chronological order right in this list. And if you ever need to call somebody back, you can simply double click on it and it'll initiate a call back to that person. Same thing with the missed section, okay? So that's how we'll do that. Beyond that, we're gonna be going over voicemail. How do we check your voicemail? Voicemail is gonna be in the top left-hand corner of your app. And again, this should be pretty universal between iPhone, Android, or computer. So you can not only make and receive calls from whatever device that you like, you can also check your voicemails from whichever device you'd like. So when you click on the messages, you'll see that there's several tabs. The one we're gonna focus on is voice. This will show us any voicemails that you received in chronological order, top down. So early in today's training, I mentioned that you can get a voicemail and check it on your Polycom. However, you can just go to your computer, click on your voicemail tab, and actually see that same exact voicemail. So it's the same voicemail no matter what device you use. So here's a voicemail from Steve, for example. I can listen to that voicemail right from here. No PIN required. I can call him back, text him back. I can delete it right from here. I can save this locally as a file to my computer as an audio file. I can mark it as read or unread or block it entirely. Okay, so if you get any spam calls, if you get a robocaller, you can block it right from here and never hear from them again. Okay, so that's how you set up your voicemails. The beautiful part about this is that it not only allows you to see those voicemails, but if I delete it from here, it deletes it across all my devices. It deletes it across the cloud. So whether you choose to check your voicemails on your Polycom and delete them there, or if you delete them from the computer, it will always delete on the other device as well. So this is what I mean by being able to manage wherever you wish. Essentially allows you to take the office with you. Next, let's go over the faxing bit that you guys have available to you. There's two types of way you guys are going to be able to fax. One is just using the app. So can people fax you? Yes, they can. How do they fax you? They fax you with the same exact phone number that is your direct dial. So if Susie asks me for my number to call me, I give her this number. If she wants to fax me, I give her this number. If she wants to text me, she gives me the same number, okay? So the system will intelligently know where to send those things. You guys are primarily going to be using these two tabs, and if you do get a fax from somebody, you'll see it come in just like a voicemail, right? You can view it right from here. You can save it right from here. You can forward it along, mark it as read or unread, or block it entirely, right? So if it's malicious, you can do that right from here. Now, how do we actually send a fax? Sending a fax is at the very bottom of the app. It looks like a little piece of paper with a fold. And if I press it, it'll actually ask me where I'd like to send it. So I can type in a 10-digit phone number, for example. It has to be the full 10 digits. So I'll just use my own phone number here. I can set up a cover page, some message recipients, And I can also attach any documents up to 20 megabytes. I can literally drag and drop some from my desktop right into that area. Here, it supports all forms of extensions. So it supports PDFs, TIFFs, anything conventional eFax system support under the sun, and we support them as well. So I can go in here, grab a Word document, for example, and hit send now, and now I've essentially just sent a fax, right? But notice the fact that it says fax is submitted, not sent. Fax is not like email, because we have to first send the fax rather, and then see if it reaches its destination. So you'll notice, to those paying attention, you'll notice under fax, and that doesn't just show me my inbound faxes, it also shows me my sent faxes. Because just because I submitted it doesn't mean it reached its destination. If this is an old school fax machine, for example, it needs to reach that destination. If that document I attach has 16 pages in it, we have to wait for all 16 to print. And then once it finally does get it, then that fax machine sends a signal back to say the fax was received successfully. So while you're sending a fax, this fax I just sent, you'll see this at the very top, we'll show you a little fax with a clock on it. This is going to stay this way for a few minutes until you are ready to actually get a signal back, and then it will change to fax sent if it actually did go through correctly. If it did not go through correctly, it will actually say fax failed, and in fact, every fax that you send also comes with an email transmission result. So whether you sent the fax successfully or not successfully, expect an email in your inbox that shows you the result of that fax. Okay. The other way you guys are going to be doing faxing is going to be by email. So you don't have to use the app at all. If you have your work email configured for RingCentral, you can simply type in the 10-digit phone number for the fax that you want to send to at rcfax.com. rcfax.com is our system. So if you want to just open up Gmail, type in the phone number at rcfax.com, attach any documents you still want, right? Send it on its way. As long as our email server see it's coming from your work email address, it knows to put 2 and 2 together and then sends the fax like it normally would, as if you sent it from the desktop application. Okay, so it gives you that flexibility to send it either way. All right. And then lastly, we have RingCentral Meetings. So RingCentral Meetings is technically your third conference option. Okay, so far we've only talked about 3-way conference calling through the Polycom dial pad or from the dial pad on the desktop application. We've talked about the conference bridge, right? That has up to 1,000 seats. And the RingCentral Meetings actually allows you to set up video conferencing. So that's actually what I'm in right now. I'm sharing my screen. I can share my webcam at the same time if I wanted to. And so can your customers. And you can set up your own RingCentral Meetings, okay? I don't know what the exact limit is when it comes to your participants. You can check with the admins to see what that is. But if you ever need a scenario where you're going to need to share your screen and or your webcam, or your customers need to, every single one of you have a license to create your own meetings. Okay, so you can go in here, you can schedule them right from here within the RingCentral app, but you can also do it from Outlook itself. Okay, so Microsoft Outlook has some integrations built in. Let me see if I can pull that up really quick. So let's head on over to the Outlook so you guys can see how you can book it from Outlook. So this is actually the preferred method that we use here at RingCentral, is to book it right from Outlook. So here, I'm going to go to my Home tab, and you can go in the top right-hand corner and click RingCentral, and you can schedule a meeting right from here. Okay, if you're on a PC, it'll be further to your left here. You'll see a RingCentral icon that allows you to schedule your meetings. Depending on your platform, Outlook looks a little different between the platforms. Just click on the one that's respective to you, and right from here, I can schedule the meeting. Now, one thing to note, RingCentral Meetings still needs to be running in the background and logged in, okay? If you are not logged in and you click on that button, it'll actually ask you politely to open up RingCentral Meetings, okay? Why is this important? Well, when you have RingCentral Meetings running in the background, it pulls the information from our servers using that client, right? And here it's put together a meeting invite for me to send out, and I can set up everything I need right from here. So I can set up who the recipients are. You can see that for every meeting, it generates a brand new link to join the meeting. This number is not a phone number. This is what's known as a meeting ID, right? The randomly one is created every single time you create a meeting. Everything that they need to join the meeting is down below. And on the right-hand side, I have some settings that I can set for my meeting. Okay, so I can set things like, does my camera turn on as soon as I join a meeting? Does your customer's voice camera turn on right as they join a meeting? Notice that those are off. That would freak most people out, so that is off by default. But other things like audio options, everything is enabled, join before host is enabled, things of that nature. Okay, you'll notice here under the meeting options, there's an option that says force include join URL in the location field. What's that talking about? Well, that meeting ID I told you about, it's in your email, it's right here, but it also creates a location field in your Outlook invitation as well and puts it here as well. So no matter what, your customer should be able to easily see that link, okay? And then come day of your actual meeting, so let's say you book this, you put it together, it will show up in your Outlook calendar, so you can see I have plenty of those meetings set up. But to actually initiate the RingCentral meeting, you're actually going to do that through RingCentral Meetings itself. So you're going to go to Meetings at the very top bottom of the app. This is literally what I do every single morning. I look at my calendar on my Outlook, and then I proceed to Meetings. And then you can see all my meetings for the day. So I had a 9 a.m., I had a 1 a.m., I had a 2 p.m., and today we had a 3 p.m. training. I simply hover my mouse over this, press start, and it'll jump me right into that meeting, okay? So you basically can schedule it entirely from within Microsoft Outlook, but do make sure Meetings is running in the background. And obviously come day of your meeting, you have to initiate it from RingCentral Meetings itself. The best part about RingCentral Meetings is your customers do not need to be RingCentral customers, okay? You can invite grandma if you want to. She can join perfectly fine. The only person that's required to be a RingCentral customer are the people hosting the meetings, right? So every single one of you are hosts, you have licenses, you can create your meetings at will. Okay, so you can invite coworkers, but you can also invite anybody that you wish. And that basically covers the 3 primary ways. Again, as far as how many people can join your RingCentral meetings, you guys can check with the admin to see what the limit is on that. But between the 3-way conferencing that is available through the dial pad on your RingCentral phone, the 1,000 line conference bridge available through the conference option at the bottom of the app, and RingCentral Meetings, that should hopefully give you more than enough toys to play with. Alrighty. And that should cover it for today.